I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, as you all know, so we are going to start this training session, and where we will be discussing more on business rule perspective in a one stream solution. So we are not directly going to jump to the business rule part of one stream. We'll get some basic understanding as well. And what I want to be this session is be interactive as much as possible. And in case you have any doubt, we will be discussing here itself. Or maybe if you have any doubt which is out of these things that we're discussing, we can discuss this at the end of the session. So I will start from the one stream functionality and the capabilities, and why we are actually learning one stream nowadays, because one stream is actually growing really good in the market, right? So one stream is not only the tool which is available right now, right? So we have other tools as well, like we have Hyperion, we have Anaplan, right? We have Tagetic, right? So all those tools are also there in the market, but OneStream is something which is quite booming in the market because of its unique functionalities and the capabilities that it can do. And one of the major point that we can cover here is with respect to OneStream is it is quite you know flexible in terms of customization that we can do. Other tools are also customizable, but they are rigid in some fashion. But OneStream is something that gives you a full control over a particular programming language that we all know that OneStream supports, like VB.NET or C Sharp, right? And using these programming languages, we can actually, you know, build custom solution and custom utilities that can extend the functionalities of OneStream, right? So if I talk about the, functionalities and capabilities, one thing which makes OneStream really, different compared to other solution is its unifies and simplifies enterprise financial process. Other tools like Hyperion, I'm comparing Hyperion here because Hyperion is one of the biggest competitor for this. So I'm guessing those who are in the meeting, they have a uh, not very detailed understanding, but having a fair understanding of what Hyperion is. So I want to hear from you guys if anyone can, tell me uh, that whether you have a background of Hyperion or not.
For me, I don't have any background for any EPM or CPM tools before, so this is my first tool.
Okay. Anyone who is having Hyperion background?
Eh, yes, Shailendra. I have a Hyperion background, but majorly into support area.
Okay, okay, okay.
And after that, moving to CPM, we are now into both this thing as of now.
Okay, 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 okay. Fine. So I think even if we have a, high level understanding of what Hyperion is, because we can relate because we know how OneStream works, right? But definitely I'll compare Hyperion here because even in future, if you get a chance to work on Hyperion, you can have a fair comparison between Hyperion and OneStream. I can say OneStream is the successor of Hyperion because those who built Hyperion, the same people built OneStream as well. So definitely look and feel, the functionality, the concepts, all those things are very common with very matching with the Hyperion tool. Okay. So as I said, it's a financial platform that unifies and simplifies the enterprise financial processes. So there are very, uh, cool features that we got along with it. Like we can do the financial consolidation, we can do the planning, we can do reporting, we can do analysis and financial data quality control. All these things are considered as the included feature that we got out of box. So this software uh, design is flexible and adaptive. So when I'm saying adaptive means um, it has the capability to meet the unique needs of every organization. So whenever we are solutioning something in one stream, we have to, think in the one stream way because um, one stream has own capabilities, right? So based on its capabilities, we have to think or kind of some in some cases we have to thought of some workarounds to achieve a particular requirement in one stream. If I talk about other strategic supports that one stream can do is financial operation planning process we can do, right? And that includes what budgeting, forecasting, and financial modeling. And along with that, it also provides detailed financial and operating result to support decision making, performance measurement, regulatory reports, right? And one thing that makes it, really good, if I compare this head to head with Hyperion, is um, it uses a unified metadata approach. So when I'm saying unified metadata approach, what it mean? For example, if there's a change in the metadata, right, in one stream, it is instantly applied across the solution. Unlike Hyperion, if there's a change in the metadata, we have to refresh the cube, then only it will be available for the other components of the tool. So that makes an little better this one stream compared to Hyperion because you must be knowing the concepts in Hyperion about sparse and dense, right? So anyway, there are two kinds of restructuring happens in Hyperion: sparse restructure and dense restructure. I'll not go into deep, but whenever there's a change in the sparse in the dense members, uh, we have to do the cube restructure, and that takes a lot of time if the data size of the cube is really huge. But here, as I said, one stream is quite fast in that, and as soon as you change something in the metadata, it is instantly applied across all the solutions. One catch is there. I mean, if I see here, the reason is how one stream is designed. Let's say you are renaming a member, so one stream will not change that member rename across all the components. It will just disconnect that member from them. Example, if you're creating a cube view, if you rename a member in the metadata, and if you try to open that cube view, it will say member isn't found, right? So because of the disconnection between the components, system has the capability to achieve this as well, right? And it has a great compatibility in terms of the integration with multiple ERP systems, right? And enabling seamless data import and export, right? Because what OneStream has done is OneStream has created different engines for different kind of component it has. So similar to that, they have a data quality engine, data management engine. So we'll talk about engine more in further slides. But the way OneStream has designed, um, their process to do the data import and export, it is quite flexible, and we can seamlessly do the integration and as well as automation in terms of data import and exports. And as I said, it provides the advanced analytical capabilities. It has a great integration with Excel as well, right? And it allows users to do the drill down of the functionality, operational data, for better insights, right? And I guess all of you have mm, comfortable with user interface of OneStream. So if I talk about the design, right? The design is user friendly, and um, it's simple interface. I mean, you will not see a lot of unwanted buttons here, right? And the UI looks quite comfortable. So we'll talk about that as well. So the good features is solution is scalable, making it suitable for any kind of business, small business, large enterprise business, and everything that in between. That will also work very smoothly here. There's one really good feature I want to add here is the drill down functionality in OneStream, right? And what drill down means, which makes it quite uh, analytical for users, for business users. I mean, drill down refers to the ability to access the detailed data by moving from high level or the consolidated level to at more granular level of data. So, I mean, let's say I'll take an example. Consider a multinational company, right? Where they have implemented OneStream, and CFO can view the total revenue of the company at the global level. Okay, and they want to analyze which region are performing well, which are not. So, using the drill down functionality, they can click on the total revenue figure, and the system will break it down into revenue by region. Let's say North America, Europe, Asia, etc. And the CFO can further drill down to a specific region to see the revenue by country, then by individual business units within each country, and so on. So until they reach the transactional level data, the functionality allows them to identify trends, issues, or any operations at various level of the business. So coming from the top, an ability to go at the very leaf level of the data, that is called drill down in one stream. So the drill down functionality in a whole allow user to navigate from high level aggregate data to more detail level data, and providing a more thorough understanding of the figures, and helping mapping the strategic decisions. Okay, so this is all about understanding of the one stream at high level. But as I said, we will be focusing more on the business rules in this training session, right? So, what is business rule in OneStream? So, I've written the definition in in such a way that it will give a high level understanding what is business rule and what are the capabilities it has. So, program and rules, you all know, it's a predefined set of instructions or the guidelines that decide the transformation, validation, and processing of the financial data. Some logic that we got within OneStream is coming out of box. Some of the functionality that we have to create within OneStream, right? And these rules may include the calculation of financial figures, consolidation of data, currency conversion, intercompany elimination, and a lot of other out of box features. right? They are also rules only, right? But they are predefined. And the one that we write, it's called the user-defined business rules. So, like we know, there are 11 type of business rules that we can write here, right? And all those 11 type of business rules that we see under the business rule section, um, they are specifically for a specific kind of requirement, and they handle specific requirement and the workflow process. Okay. So what business rules, if I just, club into a definition, it used to ensure the accuracy, consistency, and the reliability of the financial data and reports. So let's say we have a financial model, and that financial model has some calculation. So definitely that has to be taken here using the business rules, right? So OneStream is, very rich in terms of business rule libraries and functions that is quite enough to achieve any kind of financial calculation, as well as the functionality that we want to achieve, whether it is related to dashboard or, handling the specific event or making any, process smooth. Example, let's say they have a specific report that they are generating on monthly basis, right? And in that report, uh, they have to, they have Excel sheet, and from that Excel sheet, they were sending this report to all their users in a PDF format. So till the time when they don't have any system, what they'll do is they will generate the report, they will convert that into a PDF, and then they have to send that PDF to all those different users over an email, right? And I'll just add an example. Let's say they are creating uh, you know, P&L report by the product categories, right? So let's say if they have 100 product categories, they might have to go with a 100 PDF that they have to create and print or send to users. So this is something which is an, very time taking and repeated work that they have to do manually, right? But now if we adapt OneStream here, programmatically, we can design this report and export that into a PDF and send that as an email to all those users, right? And that can be achieved using one of the type of the rule here in OneStream. So these kind of, custom utility solutions also that OneStream provides, and that helps any business to make it, smooth and, uh, you know, uh, time saving as well. So as soon as, we save the time, it will save the money as well. So all those things, makes OneStream very rich in functionality. And um, but if I compare this with, Hyperion, Hyperion can also do the same thing, but we have to, utilize the batch programming that we can do over any Windows. But here, as we have the control of VB.NET, and we can even write in C Sharp, we can achieve this functionality within here. We can create dashboards to make an interactive screen so that they can, use this kind of utility generating reports, sending, you know, emails to different users. So this kind of, dashboarding can also be possible. We'll talk about that as well. Now, any questions till now from anyone? Yeah. I'll consider this as no. So now I'll jump to APIs. I'm sure everyone must have heard about APIs. So API stands for application programming, and understanding of API is, really important here, because all those predefined functions that we will be using in OneStream, that's an API, right? So let's say if I have to understand what API is in a generalized example, right? So imagine, let's say you are going to a restaurant, right, where you are the customer, and you want a specific dish from the kitchen or the system, right? But the point here is you cannot go to the kitchen by yourself to make it because you don't have access to the kitchen for any restaurant, right? So you need a way to communicate your order to the kitchen to get your food in your table, right? And there is where the waiter that will help you to get the order and give this requirement to the kitchen, then it will be served to you, correct? And the waiter here, you can consider this as an API, which is taking your request, right? Communicating it to the kitchen and bringing your food back, which is your response, right? So waiter is taking your order, is the request, and he is doing the communication to the kitchen. Bringing your food back is your response. So in this scenario, you don't need to know how the kitchen works, and kitchen doesn't need to know anything about you. All the communication happen through the waiter, which is a API in our case. Okay. So in another words, I can say API is like a waiter for any software application. It is a set of rules that allow different software application to communicate with each other. It takes a request from one system, communicates it to another, and then returns the response. Right. So this allows? So this allows different softwares to interact each other without needing to know how each other works. Example, if I am doing a connection between OneStream and Hyperion through the APIs available in Hyperion, OneStream don't have to bother how Hyperion works. OneStream has to just send a request through that API to Sbase. Sbase will respond based on the request coming through API, and the response will be consumed by the OneStream. And it can be a data, it can be some information from Sbase, or it can be some action as well at the target application. Okay. So any questions about API if you understood this correctly?
Uh, I mean to say like API is an bridge
Exactly.
between the between two systems. Is that correct?
So a single system may have, multiple APIs, right? And every API has a specific structure, the base URL and the endpoint or the parameters along with it, right? And the data that we are sending along with the API, that is called the payload, right? For example, even with OneStream, we have multiple APIs available. Let's say from external system, if I want to execute a data management job in OneStream, there's a specific API given by OneStream itself. So we have to call that API, which is an out-of-box API given by OneStream. We have to give the specific parameters. I'll definitely give some real-time examples of this as well in further classes, that how we can use a postman to call a API within OneStream, right? How that API can be called programmatically using VB.NET, what is the structure of the APIs, how we can do authentication with OneStream system using the APIs, right? What is the payload we have to send when we have to do the authentication, right? So if I have to interact with OneStream through APIs, there are certain steps that we have to follow. First request will be get the response uh, that where system will generate a token. So there's a specific set of APIs where I will give the application name and uh, the base URL and other version details as well, so that OneStream will give me a token. And then I will use this token to authenticate my request that is coming outside of OneStream. So we can simulate these things using the Postman. You must have heard about Postman as well. Through Postman, we can, simulate the requests, either it is get, post, put, right? For any specific API, and we can see the response and all those details related to that API. It can be handled programmatically as well. Sorry, I
Can
missed
you
your
please
question.
list out some of the OneStream APIs just for our understanding what can the API do?
Can you please repeat?
Or can you please repeat what can, I mean, in OneStream, what can API do
Okay, okay.
with some real-time
So
examples so that we can
within one
understand?
stream, let's say you have different data management jobs that you can create, right? And within the data management jobs, we have different steps that we can write. Let's
Yes.
say if we want to create a integration between one stream and one of the external database or external API, let's say you have a SAP system and you want to push the data from one stream to SAP on daily basis, right? And you want to achieve it using the APIs. So what you have to do at high level, you have to export the data from one stream, right? Convert that exported data as a file and save it to a shared location, right? So to do that, you need a trigger, and that trigger will execute a data management job in one stream, right? So there are two ways to achieve it. One is I'll create a database management, okay, job. I will execute this job from a task scheduler, okay? Second method is I can execute this job from an external system. Let's say I have a batch program, right? Or I have a Python system from where I don't know at what time my actual data will be going to available. Then I load into system. For example, I have a source system. From that source system, I'm going to load the data within one stream, right? But one stream don't know at what time the data will be available at my source. Then the load of actuals that is going to happen within one stream should be triggered from the source only, because source knows at what time the actual is going to available in my source system. So as soon as my data will be available in my source system, I will trigger a request to one stream that source data is now available. Run a job within one stream to start pulling the data from your source system, right? And that trigger is going from the source application itself. So the trigger is going outside of one stream. So how one stream is able to read that request is through the data management APIs. One stream out of box APIs are there, right? So what we do is we will call that data management API, and within that API we have to pass some payloads. And within that payload we have to pass the name of the application, the base URL, and the name of the jobs along with the parameters that I want to run in one stream, so that the trigger of loading data at one stream side starts pulling the data from the source. So as soon as the data will be loaded in one stream, it will run a consolidation. Now the consolidation data I have to pull and extract it from one stream and load it into a different system, let's say SAP, right? So all these flow, right? starting from the source, loading into OneStream, extracting the data from OneStream and loading or creating a file and save it in a different system. Correct? So did I answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. So one more question following to this. Uh, uh, do you know about DCOM API? I think I have heard somewhere about this DCOM API. I'm not sure whether I'm right or
So
wrong.
DCOM
So
APIs are related to
is there
Java,
anything? Is there any such
as per
thing in
my
OneStream?
understanding. Right. So they are Java-based APIs, and
Okay.
these are having different packages within Java where you can be use it. But within OneStream, all those APIs are out of box, and if you see the API documentation given by OneStream, you can utilize that only. Okay.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
So, Shailendra, in the nutshell, you're trying to say that all the APIs will be covered
So I will give you
uh,
one
within
example,
the one stream in this session,
right?
in
So
this
this is a
class, right?
demo class, right? So I will give you a high level understanding what API is and how it works and what are the different perspectives,
Yes.
right? So there are more than, 50 APIs that are available in one
Mhm.
stream. So covering everything on a screen share class is not possible, but I will cover few and show you how that works. And that will give a fair understanding how you can utilize others, right? If you once you understand, let's say, um, how to run a data management job from
Okay.
outside of OneStream, right? And if I'll show you how to create a token, once you receive the token, you have to pass this token as a authenticator to my another request, right? Other APIs are quite similar, right? And other APIs, let's say, if you have to run a financial rule directly, if you have to run a data export job, if you have to run a data load, import, validate, load, right? So for all these things, we have different APIs available. Okay. So if I'll show you one, others are very much similar, and you can try by yourself. If you fail, I mean, definitely you can come to me and tell you, okay, this is not working. Then we can figure that out. Okay. Okay. Now moving
Okay. Okay.
next to
Understood. Yeah. Thank you.
uh, OneStream specific APIs and BR APIs. So you must have understood about APIs and BR APIs within OneStream, right? So you might have noticed on the second panel, whenever we go to OneStream, we see two sections, right? One is where you will see all the list of functions within the OneStream, right? And on the very right hand side, you will be able to see place where you write the code. Okay. So if I try to compare what is API and BR API, so API functions are specifically available for financial, parser, conditional derivative, and connector rules. And even it is recommended by OneStream that whenever you are writing a financial rule or parser rule or a connector rule, use APIs as much as possible because there are some functions which are common between API and BR APIs. Let's say if you have to read a list of members from your entity dimension, right? You can pull this either from the API or the BR API. Both will work the same. But if you are using the API within the financial rule, which is going to run parallelly when you are calling a custom calculate data management job from your data management, right? Uh, what OneStream suggests is use API functions because they are comparatively faster. BR APIs are majorly used for XBR, extenders, dashboards, spreadsheet rules, right? Dataset rule. So whenever we have to deal with custom utilities, right? We will be going more with the BR APIs. Okay, I'll give you one example. Let's say if you're writing a member formula, right? Within member formula, you want to do some logging in your log. So if you try, if you're using the API dot log message or BR API dot error dot log message, both will work the same thing. But when you are playing with the API, BR API, you have to pass a session variable, right? But when you're playing with the API, you don't need the session variable to pass with that to do a logging, correct? So these are the some different basic differences between BR API and API where it is recommended to use. I mean, even if you want, you cannot use API with an extender because it's not even available, right? So first of all, the first restriction is you can use BR API only where on a certain business rule types, right? And BR API is for the extender and XBR and all those things which I said, right? So this is some basic difference that we have seen. Definitely when we go and see the practical thing, right? There we understand more what type of rule is having access to what type of APIs and their capabilities. Okay. Now moving to the next slide where we will be talking about the platform engines. So within OneStream, it comprises several processing engines. Let's say if you are playing with workflow, the workflow engine will be in action. If we are playing with the data loads, the stage engine will be in action. If we are doing a financial calculation, the financial engine will be in action. So all the different kind of functionality within OneStream, we have a different engine available in the system, right? So um, here I have mentioned BR API as well. So BR API is not an engine, but it's common across all the business rules, right? So when let's say I'm calling a BR API, one of the function, right? So it might be going into different engines because it has access to all the different engines available within OneStream. Okay. And so it is actually BR APIs have the capability that it can uh, go to a different engine based on the kind of function you're calling, right? And this works together to provide the comprehensive financial management solution, and that includes transformation analysis, data quality, right, task automation, data visualization. All those kind of functions are there in the BR API, but they are part of different engines. Presentation engine I'll talk about whenever you are creating some component which is user interactive elements like dashboard, cube views. They all are part of presentation engine, right? And data management engine, whenever we have to do some automation, right, within the system, we will be creating a data management job. Either we schedule it or call it outside of OneStream or call it from a batch programming of Windows, right? And within the data management, we have different kind of steps that we can create. Even the consolidation triggers from a data management engine, right? So uh, it will be triggered from data management engine, but ultimately it will go to the finance engine only because it has to interact with the cubes. Okay. So as I said, data management thing will be with the data management engine. When the job will be triggered, let's say consolidation. So this is a memory financial analytics engine when I'm talking about the finance one, and consolidation happening between multi-dimensional uh, information. So it has to interact with the tables which are at the back end. right? But it is somehow related to the cube. So at the same time, when the consolidation happening or when the financial engine are running, it also works with the stage engine and the data quality engine, correct? To validate the incoming intersections and data value. So what I mean actually here, let's say when you are doing import validate load, right? So when your import is running, it is getting the data from the source, writing it into a stage area. So your stage engine will be in action. Now the next step, it's a validate. So when the validation is happening, all the members coming from the source loaded into a stage area will have a member comparison whether that particular member is available or not, right? So it's a validation that happens that where it checks whether the member is there somewhere in the hierarchy or not, right? Or whether the input for a particular member is true or not. If it's not true, then only then we cannot load the data to that member, right? So anyway, the financial engine was in the action earlier, but sorry, stage engine was there in the action. But when it is doing a comparison from the metadata, whether the particular member is available or not, then it's a financial engine that comes in picture, right? So also the data quality engine, correct? Where it will check the valid incoming intersections and the data values, right? So uh, you must have understood that even from a single process, all those engines are working independently as well as working in the collaborative fashion to make a certain task complete. Okay. So I believe this should be straightforward, and you must got the understanding the different kind of engines and what are their capabilities are. Okay.
You mean to say, like, whenever there is a process initiated in one stream, it will touch base all these engines. It may not
Exactly.
be
Let's say if you are
simultaneously, but one
running
after the other to get the
a
required
particular process
calculation. Is that true?
from a workflow profile, means you are going to a workflow profile, your workflow profile engine is in action. You are clicking
Mm-hmm.
on a load and transform, your stage engine is in action. When a validation is happening, your
Mm-hmm.
finance and engine and the data quality engine in action because it has to compare the values or the members with your metadata. When the data is getting loaded into the cube, where the financial engine comes in action. So if you want to read more and detail, very more detail about it, you can always go to the reference guide and see. You will see the same thing is and explaining this there. And if you go to the reference guide of OneStream, you will see these things and very clearly mentioned there, right? So I mean, I'll say go through that reference guide, and if you have any questions further, maybe we'll discuss more about this in the upcoming sessions. Okay. Now, moving to the business rule classifications. Okay. So what I'm trying to cover here is what are the different type of classifications of business rules within OneStream? They are majorly two. One is shared business rule versus item specific business rule. Okay. So what I mean by that, shared versus the item specific. So when I'm saying shared here, means those business rules that are reusable because the rule is written and stored in a centrally in one of the business rule library. This means the same rule can be called or referenced by multiple platform components. Here, the extensibility rules comes in picture. So the rule can be executed from business rule editor, right? Within extensibility, right? Or I also we can called it by a data management job or can be called by another business rule. So shared business rules are the code fields seen in the tree when the OneStream syntax editor is open, right? And let's say if you're writing a connector, I'll give you one real life example here. And you have two connectors. One connector is getting the data from SBase. Second connector is you getting data from one of the API, right? Let's say your data lake, right? In both the cases, when my connector is interacting with SBase, it is also a SBase API. When my second connector is interacting with one of my external API, it is also a API. And the responses in both the cases is in the JSON format. You must have heard about the JSON, right? It's a serialized data. So the structure in the JSON is is different. We'll talk about more in this in further classes what JSON is, right, and what is serialization and deserialization of the JSON, because this is something that we should know whenever we are uh, you know doing API based integrations with OneStream. Okay, so extensibility is something where I will write a serialization and deserialization of a JSON data, which is actually common for both the business rules, right? Because once the data I'm getting from SBase in one connector, second connector I'm getting data from a different source. There also it is JSON. But instead of writing this JSON to tabular conversion in both the connectors, what I'll do is I will write extensibility rule. I will define a function in the extensibility rule. I will call this function in both the connectors and achieve the functionality without replicating the same code in both the places. This is called shared business rule. This is just a one example. The ideal practice in one stream whenever we are dealing with shared and item specific business rules, extensibility plays a really important role, because extensibility where we commonly use these kind of functions, because the return type of extensibility is not fixed. We can create any kind of return type if we want, right? But if I take a case of dashboard data set, it and dashboard data set rules are very much specifically working with the data adapters. Data adapter is something where we can select the option called method, right? And within that method, we can define a business rule. And that business rule should be your dashboard data set type, because we will be going to give a return type as your data table. Then only your data adapter will understand this. Right. We'll talk about this in detail. Definitely, you must have seen my detailed content that we are going to cover in further classes, right? So I'll definitely give you a real life demo by running or creating this code, creating a shared business rule, how it can be called within a different business rule. All these things will be covered there, right? So theoretically, if I cover more for this shared business rule, we have other kind of business rule you might have heard upon is your event handler business rules. So event handler business rules are um, almost 7 to 8 types, like data management event handler. Means, let's say if you are running a data management job and you want to put a condition, you want to catch that event. And what event called here is, let's say if you are creating a dashboard and within that dashboard you have a button, right? When you are clicking on a button, that's an event. To catch that event, it is important that you have to write a function within the dashboard extender rule, because dashboard extender rule only can be attached to a custom button. So when you click on a button, it will run a dashboard extender rule. Within that rule, you will catch the event which is coming by clicking on a button, right? Similarly, we have other event handlers. As I said, it is 7 to 8 types: data management event handler, data quality event handler, form event handlers, journal event handler, save data event handler, transformation event handler, workflow event handler, right? And WCF event handlers. I'll give an example, a real life example where these event handlers are, can be really useful. Example, let's say you must be knowing whenever we do a import validate load data, correct? Within the import step, you have an option to clear data on the top, right? And as soon as you clear the data, it clears everything from your stage area, right? But not always. It depends. If your data is by source ID, so let's say for a particular load and transform, if you have 5 source IDs, you will be able to see these source IDs on the middle panel. And on the top, there is the option called all. So if you click on a specific source ID and click on clear to your import stage, it will clear only that specific source ID. But if you select all and if you clear the data, it will delete all the source IDs data in your stage area. So there was a requirement that came to me, sometime back, where we are facing one problem that instead of clearing a specific source ID data, users were by mistakenly clicking on all and deleting the data. So what it was doing, it was deleting the data for all the different source IDs, and we were having different users loading different source IDs to do the adjustments, right? To do a top level, adjustment on the existing value. And every time they are using a different source ID, but somehow by mistakenly, if any user is clicking on all and clicking the clear data, it was deleting everything, and where there's a problem. So the requirement here that came to me is to stop when user click on a specific source ID, then only allow the system to clear the data from stage. When any user will click on all and clear the data, you have to stop it, right? So within the import, you don't, there's nothing where we can write a rule, right? But we can write a WCF event handler, and within the WCF event handler, we can catch that clear data event. And within that event, we can put a condition. If the selected scenario source ID is all, return false. If it is a specific source ID, return true. So this is how the event handlers can come into picture and can be used very intelligently. I'll give you one more example where event handler comes into picture. Within this import validate load, instead of load, you can also use process, import validate process, right? And within that process, you have an option where you can do a load and process. So load will load the data which is there in your stage area to the cube, and process will or can run a consolidation, right? And can also run other jobs as well. Now, what you want is you want to run a consolidation once your data load is completed. What you can do is within the process, you can select a consolidation from one of the drop down, and you can click on the consolidation. So as soon as data load will be completed, the consolidation job will execute. Right. Now, let's say you have a app cube to cube data movement, or app to app data movement. Let's say you have two applications. One is for corporate application, and one is for one of the segment. And users are loading data from one of your segment application. And what you want is you want to move the data which is just recently loaded in your cube, and you want to identify what that data gets loaded for, what entity, for what combination it's got loaded into your cube or in your segment application, and you want to move this data to your corporate application. right? So we need that list of entities that got processed for that particular input profile. So what I can do is I can catch that event, right, in one of my event handler, right, and identify that what are the entity that recently processed. And based on the list of entities I will identify, I will do a push from segment application to my corporate application. Right. So this is a incremental data push that you can also achieve, where I'm not pushing everything to everything from app to app. I'm pushing the specific entities that user has actually touched upon when that user is loading the data in the cube. Right. So this is also a very good example where you can utilize the event handlers to improve your app to app data movement or integrations. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So we are going to
I will
learn
use
all these
all
tools
the major, definitely see, there are almost 7 to 8. And if I try to cover everything, right, so we will not be able to follow the, the basic training material that we have added. So I'll try some real-time case scenarios that I have given, right, just now, which are very common and can be used in most of the, implementation that you do recently. Okay. So definitely I will come up with some use cases where these kind of event handlers can be useful, right, and can be utilized, and right, and which are very common, like, data integrations or uh, facing a real life problem, right, where we this event handler can be very useful. And I will give some documentation as well from OneStream, where all the handlers are listed. Also, I'll explain how you have to understand by your own that how a particular event handler will work, right? Because running each and every possible event handler over a class within 1 month, right, it is quite impossible. But instead of teaching each and every event handler, I will tell you how you can understand that event handler from the documentation and use it in your code, right? Because here my goal is not to tell you everything, to make you aware that how you can learn by yourself, right? Then only it will enhance you, because these classes will end in 1 month or 2 months, correct? Then what happens at the later stage? You should be able to have the understanding to understand the things by your own. But that will happen only once your basic understanding is clear, that how the event handler is working. If you understand its nature, its behavior, ability to add or handle new event handlers, it's quite easy. You have to just, put the right function, right class, right, put a statement and see what is the return type of that particular function that we're calling, and how to check what is the return type of a particular function based on what classes we have to use. All these things we have to understand. Once we understand one event handler in detail, others you will feel, yeah, I can try by myself and see the behavior, right? Because there is a specific approach that we have to follow to understand any coding or any new feature in OneStream. Okay. Anything you want to add or ask?
So basically, it is even we understand that it is not possible to cover everything in the class, but
Exactly, exactly.
we
I will
will
give you one more
understand how
example.
to use it
Let's
further
say
if there is
we
any
all are
use
here
case.
to understand how a financial rule works, correct? I will explain the maximum detail possible to showcase how a financial rule is working and what are the different ways you can write a financial rule over a cube. But if you ask me, can you cover all the possible modules in this world where we have to write a calculation for the PNL? That is not possible. But if you understand how the financial rule is working, you can fit any kind of module and business to it. Correct? So this is something that approach I'm going to follow. You understood, right? Yeah.
Uh, uh,
Um, yeah.
Shailendra, Shailendra, the ultimate goal for this is like we should be in a position to write any business rule on our own so that we can fill that requirements, like whatever is asked. Like for example, if we have a requirement to write a shared rule or something, right? So
Exactly.
after
I mean,
this
that's
course, we
my
should be
expectation
able
as
to
well,
write
because
them on
uh,
our own. That's what
this
our
is what I want to
expectation is.
deliver with this course.
So Shailendra, you said that so you're gonna explain one real time scenario for shared business rule and also the event handler. So would you be giving some other task for us, like once after completion of the
Exactly. That's why if you have
this
noticed
topic, like
that I
to
have
do on our own, like a project?
scheduled the course in such a way that you have 1 day gap, right? So let's say today I am going to explain what is shared business rule, right? So
Yes,
along with
yes.
that, I'll give you a 5 tasks that you have to cover in next day, right? So if you are able to achieve, definitely, then you can say you understood the concept. If you're not able to achieve, then we'll come to we'll meet to the next class and try to understand where is the gap in your understanding, where you were not able to replicate all those, because the activities I will give you at the end of the session, so that you will check your understanding whether you're able to achieve it or not, right? You can add your understanding as well there. Example, let's say I have given one example for the connector where you can write a function and it can be called within different connectors, right? This is the explanation I have given. Now, what kind of activities I'll give it to you? I'll say, write a function uh, in your extender rule, call this function inside another data management job, trigger the data management job, right? It should run two data management jobs parallelly and should use the same function, right? And should have the ability to pull the functions from two different cubes and write it into your error log or in the stage area, right? This is the functionality that you should be able to achieve once you will be able to understand the shared business rules. And you don't have to write the rule in two different places two times. You have to just write in one extensibility rule and use it into two different data management jobs. These kind of activities I'll just give you. Right. So I believe this will
Okay, okay,
help you
understood.
to
Thank you.
understand uh, the concepts I'm telling you. I'll give you one example, and based on that, you have to replicate others' real-time cases. Okay.
Send one more question. Same as the previous question asked by Chandu. So, what I expect from this training is like once it is done, I should be able to capable to understand the business requirement and build the
Exactly.
logic
And
and
how
implement it
I
in
will
one
make
stream.
sure that you will
So
be able to
that was my
achieve
expectation.
or understanding what I'm explaining is, let's say today I explained one of your financial rule, right? Then for next day, I will give you 5 tasks. Okay. If you are able to do that, right, it means whatever I'm able to, tell you or sharing my knowledge or, sharing the concepts, if you're able to achieve, right, then it means your understanding of the business rules are good. Correct? So definitely I'll try to include some, basic activities to that. Also, I will include, some complex calculations as well. I will include some buffer based concept as well. Right. So the examples I will set in such a way that if you are able to write those financial rules, you will be able to write any kind of financial rules in future. So yeah, I believe that should be easy for you to follow that. So kind of you can check your understanding by doing this task that I'm going to give after the specific session. Okay. Now coming back to the flow of today's item that I'm going to cover here, you can see this is a basic VB.NET program. This is how a VB.NET program structures. Correct. So Here it is a simple hello world program, correct? I will try to explain line by line what it means in VB.NET for import system, what is module program, what is main function, what is ARGS inside the main function, correct? I'll try to explain. So here, if you see the very first line is imports system, right? And give me 1 second. Okay, sorry. So here, the import system is what? So this import statement in VB.NET is used to include namespaces in the program. So the system that you see is nothing but a namespace. And what namespace is? A namespace is a collection of classes, interfaces, structures, enum, delegate, right? And these combination of all the different collections of components or the objects will make a namespace. Okay. And here system is a one of the namespace that comes out of box with the .NET, and that contains some fundamental classes and base classes that defines commonly used values and references data types, right? Some event handlers are there, interfaces are there, attributes are there, processing exceptions are there, correct? All these are defined within this system. You must have seen, I'll show you one. This is how a business would looks like, correct? And all these things that you see on the top, they are namespaces. Yeah,
Shailendra, one question here. So you might have noticed, like when we open any business rule kind of thing, whether it is finance or parts or whatever it may be,
correct,
when we create a new one, it will automatically give us some lines of code from the system itself, right? So in that, like as we are covering about system, so
correct,
there are already
correct.
some system import systems and packages which is already given in that at the starting itself. And this namespace, which I remember, is that's the name program name what we say. Like what I can mention is if I
No,
want to
I mean,
calculate
name is not the
something, that would be the
namespace.
namespace of that
Namespace is a collection
program.
of class, interface, structure, and all these different kind of objects. Example here, if you see
Hmm.
system, right? It is also a namespace, but it is a predefined namespace. And what
Hmm.
namespace we are building here, it is a custom defined that we are defining for our business, for our solution. And the one that you see on the top, it is these are predefined one. And within that example, if I have to use a string concatenation, I have two string, I have to merge it together and create a longer string, right? So where that concat function came out, that must be defined somewhere, right? So all these predefined functions that we are using to manipulate the string to convert a integer to a string or anything that we are going or doing in the calculation or data types, they must be defined somewhere, right? And that is defined in your system package, right? So system is itself a namespace, and the namespace, the name you are giving to your business rule, that is also a namespace, but that you are creating as an extension of the existing namespace that you have added in your rule. Here, segment underscore plan final underscore to underscore plan working is also a namespace that created by you, that is customized, the one that you are creating. And what it is doing here, it is doing a version copy. It is copying plan working to plan final. Sorry, it's a scenario copy, not version copy. So it's a scenario copy happening here that is written inside api.data.calculate. System will not understand it. And if you notice here, all these different kind of engines are attached here, correct? And they are nothing but they are namespaces. They are defined. And within these namespaces, your all the classes, the functions that are going to use for the financial rule are already imported. So every time whenever you will use a new function, example, let's say if you want to use string builder, that function will not be enabled unless you will import a package that is having a string builder class definition. Okay, exactly, exactly.
So
So
basically,
can you
we are
explain what is
using
object-oriented programming language?
object-oriented programming. It's like there will be a one class defined somewhere. With the name of that
So when
class,
we
we
are
can
going with
access
the
their
class
methods,
approach,
so-called
means
objects in another
without
class.
creating object, you cannot create any function or any parameters, or you cannot access anything,
Yeah.
correct? So definitely, first of all, we need a class. Then within that class, we will define some
Yes.
instances. Then we define some functions. And to call those functions, we have to create the object of that class. And from that class object, we will call the functions that are defined within that class. Right. There's one more thing called static functions. And what static functions means, right? So you must have noticed in your in when if you have some understanding of Java, we whenever we call the main function, what we used to write is public static void main. And what that static means, and that static means the static keyword whenever we will use, even when you write a program in your C sharp language, right, you will use that static keyword, and that static keyword will make sure that all those instances or the functions will come into memory without creating the object of that class, correct? Because main function is the main entry point for that program. So whenever I will execute system very first time, will find out, okay, it's my main class. Then it will try to identify where is my main function. Main function is my entry point for any program to execute. Okay. So as soon as system identifies a main function, then it will go inside the main function and follow the instructions whatever I've given. And within the instruction, if I have used any predefined method, system will try to find out these methods in one of my namespaces that I have imported already. Okay. So I'm going back to my previous program. Is it clear or you want me to explain more?
No, for me, it's
For
clear.
me, bit for me it's a bit
Okay.
confusing though,
So I
but
mean,
yeah, maybe
what
in
is
the
the
next
confusion?
classes
Is
we'll
it
go much deeper. No, this simple code is understandable, but the one that you explained through in the business rules, so there I was like the import thing is like that's a default thing, right? When we create a new business rule, so the import will be like already created and the sample codes will be there. So could you explain like what are the sample
so?
codes and
I
which one
mean,
that you edited
that's my
in the
target to
business rules
start
so that
from
I can
the,
understand
next
a bit
class,
clear?
right? Right. Here, as it's a demo, I'll go at high level, right? The
Okay, okay, then
functionality,
that's fine. Yeah,
definitely
that's
I'll
fine.
cover all the different cases that are there in the financial rule, all the different cases. When I'm saying cases means these cases. When as soon as you create a financial rule, you will see different cases, right? Like you see finance function type dot calculate, finance function type dot custom calculate, finance function type dot um, get cell, finance function type dot conditional input, right? All these different cases that comes out of box, right? And these are the cases which are very important to understand. Then only you will be able to understand what rule should be able to work from what component. Example, when you are attaching a extensibility rule or extender rule to one of your data management job, it will not run unless if you define the case inside it. There's a case in the extender rule called finance extender function type dot unknown. If you put your code Under the unknown case, your rule will not work. It is very important that you have to put the right case, then only your code will work through a specific component. You can run your extender rule from a data management job when you write the specific case within that. Okay, so definitely I'll cover all those things because these things are very important to understand, and which case I should use, which business rule I should use to achieve a specific requirement.
Yeah, that's the main thing, Shailendra. Like, what exactly the need of this training is. We are aware of like there are so many kind of rules, like whether it is a finance, parser or connector, something like this. But we don't know when to use that rule, and what are the functions we need to write in that. For which reason we will be selecting this, and if there is any external namespace which can be utilized in
Exactly,
that,
exactly.
so
So I
what is the name
completely
of
agree
that and
with
how
you because this is the
incorporate in that
main goal
program.
of going with this training session, and we will go as deep as possible, right, to understand how things are working. And I will really appreciate in your project or in your company if you are come across any certain requirement, right, which you want me to cover. I'm happy to cover that as well, right? Definitely, I'll cover based on my understanding the
Mm.
cases that I've seen in OneStream projects. If you have something more complex, I will be happy to discuss in detail how that thing can be achieved.
Okay. And one more thing, Shailen. So, what is the use of data table here in this? Because I have been hearing like we need to fetch it from the data table, and we need to get only required fields from data table. And I remember like one of my teammates, this one asking, discussing about we need to create a data table for this to get
Okay.
the
So
required result. So, what
data
exactly
table
is that data
is
table, and how
nothing
can we
but
create it?
a relational table that we can create within application database of OneStream. When you install a OneStream in your server, you will see under the system there is a tab called database. Under the database, you will see a section called application database. And if you expand that application database, you will be able to see different kind of tables that are created. You will see a stage table, you will see a workflow table, you will see a table for almost every kind of thing which are getting saved in your database. All the components are also getting saved in your databases, application databases. Now, what if you need your table and within my table, and within OneStream terms, we call it as a custom table or data table. Custom table, when you heard, is same, data table is same, right? And if I talk about some modules like workforce think planning, they will say register. Register is also nothing but a custom table or a relational table, right? So whenever I'm writing a financial rule, I'll try to give you a real time example, right? Let's say you are working on one of the planning module, right? And that planning module is your target based planning, right? And in the target based planning, you will be coming up with a target value that you have to allocate to all those your business units. Let's say you have different business units in your entity. Okay. To do that allocation, you are getting the share percentages from an external database, means from an integration. And you don't want to store these percentage in your cube because it's a huge list, right? By business unit to the share percentage. What I will do, what my approach will be to pull that share percentages from some system, from some external system using the connector. I will load that into one of my table that I create, that is not system created data table. I'll create a relational table. I will load these percentage shares in my custom table. And when I will be writing my financial rule to allocate this target value to my business units in my cube, what I will do is I will read these percentages from my table, multiply with my target value, and the calculated value will be saved in my cube. So you see, I have used this custom table as a placeholder where I can put some values and later I can be used it somewhere in my calculation or in my financial calculation I can use it, right? Or in my reporting I can use it, right? So some information which I don't want to put in my tables, sorry, in my cube, I can put this information in my custom tables or a relational tables. So this is the use of custom tables and relational tables in OneStream. I can give you one more example.
But what I small thing here, Shailendra. So whatever
No,
the
no, no. I
information
mean,
which we
why
are
I will put
keeping
in
in
two
our
different
custom
places,
table, it is already present in the database only, right?
right? Point is, let's say percentage here.
So,
How I am getting this percentage here? It's a calculated value. If it is a calculated value within the cube,
mm,
I will not put it in my table. I'll just
mm,
put it in my cube,
oh,
right? So let's say I am working on a workforce module. Example, right? In my workforce module, I will
mm,
create two tables. Let's say one register table. In the register table, I will put
mm,
all my associate information. In my plan table, what I will do is I will do all the component calculation for the salary related items and all the expenses to my plan table, right? So in my register table, my data is at associate level granularity, right? And in my cube, I have not created any dimension where I have defined each and every associate ID. So if I have to put this granular data, which is at associate level, to my business unit level, because in a single business unit I may have 5 associates. So when I move this data from my register to the cube, I will consolidate, I will do a group by and put 5 associates. I will do a group by, then I will push the data into my cube, right? So definitely if you say yes, my data is available in cube as well as in my table, but the granularity is different. In my table, the granularity is at associate level. In my cube, the granularity is at by business unit level. The granularity by associate is gone. So this is how to handle or to store the more granular data, which I can skip to store in cube, right? I can use this thing. I can use a custom table. So is that answer to your question or do you have any other doubt?
you are saying like a register
Right.
table, and
Second thing
what
is a
was the
plan
one
table
more
because
thing,
I'm talking
which is
about
at
the workforce
associate level
module,
granularity and
right? So
huh. Matter. So whenever we create a register a table, so is this table
it will be
going
within
to
the same application
save under the
database.
same application database or any other place?
Right. Now, if you ask me, is it really important that you have to save it under the same database? No.
Okay, same
We
application.
can create a
Hmm. Because
exactly. But
I
these tables,
remember we
whenever you
have two
create now,
databases,
it will
application
create
and
within
one
the
more is
application table. Because
framework
whenever we
database.
create a data base object to create this data table, we generally
Hmm.
use the application database to do it.
Hmm. Okay. Any situation where we need to so, for example, I'm not sure. Is there have you seen any requirement like we have to
So if
club
you are asking me
one
technically,
database table from
that can be
application and
possible.
one database
Right,
table
I
from
will pull
framework?
the data from both the tables. I will do a join and then use it. But my point is,
Okay.
even if you see all those out-of-box solution that is created by
Hmm.
OneStream, let's say think planning, right? Database management tool, right? And they have ACM, they have workforce
Hmm.
solution. In no solution, they have created any table outside of application, right? In all the solutions, they have created these tables within the application database. That's why it is preferred that it should be in the application, because I've not seen any solution coming out
Okay.
of marketplace solution where the data table is not in the application database. It is always there in the database. But
Okay, got it. And for example, if you get any new thing which is related to, like as we were discussing about marketplace solution, so if there is something related to rules part or business rules part which OneStream gives us, so do we have any plan such that like how
uh,
to
I
configure it
mean,
into
see, so that's
existing
a,
OneStream
because
environment?
here
Do
in
we have
this,
any
in
such
these
setup?
sessions, we will be specifically focusing on the different rules and their, concepts, right?
Mhm.
If you want me to cover how workforce works, how to set up and all those things, so that needs a separate
Okay.
training, because that is a very huge, right? How register integration will work, right? How we will do a, because if you have some idea about
Okay.
workforce planning, it has its own calculation engine, right? And to do that, we have different calculation tables. We have to assign the allocation modules to
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
correct? We have to assign the calculation plans we have to create, and we have to assign that we have to create a table. We have to also define the columns definition, the parameters in the workforce planning, correct? Within the workforce planning, you have to define the plan calculations. When the plan calculation will run, your register table calculation will go into a plan table. There are a lot of things that we have to cover if we have to, understand how think planning and workforce planning is actually working, and their calculation engine, right? So even I have worked a lot in workforce planning and think planning. We customize the entire tool end to end, right? But I will suggest, if I try to cover in these 25-hour session, that will eat a lot of our time, and we will be distracted from our basic goal, which is understanding the financial rules and all these rule granularities. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in future, if you want to
Um,
continue with me, I will definitely create a different course
yeah, yeah.
specifically
Okay.
for the workforce, where we'll go a deep dive, understand all the possible things, that the register table and plan table and all these solutions, you know, that includes integration to register table, right? Inbound, outbound, integration from plan table to cube, all those things I'll cover in very detail. Yeah.
Shailendra, so in this course, the UD8 reporting members where we
I mean, if you
create some
see
custom
my
formulas and then
plan
we
that I have
utilize it
created,
in the cube
right?
views, right? So
I
will
have
that be
covered the member
covered
formula,
here?
correct? So whenever we will be talking about the
Yes.
member formulas,
Yes.
these things will be covered in that.
Okay. And then mhm, derivative rules and I heard so many like my team members were talking about the
Confirmation rule
confirmation
will
rules
cover,
and
no
derivative
problem.
rules,
That's
but
very
I'm
easy,
not very
right?
sure like what does
Derivative.
those
See, I
rules
mean, I
does.
don't think you have you seen my content. All these things, yeah,
Derivative.
all these things are mentioned, right?
Yes, I did, but maybe it would be covered in a whole as a
Okay, no
topic,
problem.
but
I mean,
I
no
haven't
problem. We'll
seen
we'll
this
cover that
these
as
two
well. I'll
names in
even
the
with one
topic,
real-time
so
example.
that's the reason I
What kind
was
of
asking
derivative
it.
rules you have to write, right? What type of confirmation rules we might see in general, right? These things will also I'll cover, no problem. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, basically they those are the things that mostly asked in the projects, and also there was like a requirement in my project that they were asking that the dimension members UD2 dimension members should be created on fly
See,
with the business rule.
definitely we can do that,
So
but
will you explain something like that
one
concepts?
thing I want to tell you here is creating a member, updation of a metadata, right? Updating the member properties on the fly, reading the member properties, updating the text properties, right? All these things are, we have different functions, right? So I mean, whenever we are going this, with these kind of things, right? So maybe what you can do is before class, uh, 2 days before, give me the list of functions that you want to learn, right? Let's say if you want to update
Mhm.
a member, right? So let's say I we have a class on
Mhm.
let's say 14th, right? So what you can do is on 12th evening, just give me the list of functions,
Mhm.
right? That you want me to cover in next class, let's say on 14th. So I'll try to cover these things in that class because it is nothing but a understanding of a class and the function that we have to call. That's it, right? So these are not very big things, when you heard about it, it feels they are very big, right? But it is not. It's just a class or a function that you have to call, and it will do the trick. Correct? So what I'll suggest is
Mhm.
make a list of all these things that you feel in terms of understanding of the
Okay.
class and the function that you want to understand to achieve a specific thing. Just mention it in a group, right? 2 days before, so that I will just cover this thing.
Mhm.
Because definitely I have to create an example for that to show you. Correct?
Mhm.
So yeah, for that, just ping me over the group. What are the
Yeah.
functions? What are the functionalities you want to understand? I will cover this in the next class. Yeah,
Mhm. Okay. Thank you.
So, Shannon, just following question with the Monica. So, when you are talking about the function, it is important to learn how that function works, what argument does it accept, and what it returns. So, if we
exactly.
are aware
That's
of
my
that
point.
thing, then we
So
are capable to
to
write
be
that function
able
at
to
any point
understand
when
what
it
is the
is required.
functionality of a function, you have to understand the definition of the function.
Oh,
What are the different parameters that function is taking, and what is the return type of that function? And within that parameters of a function, what are the things that system is expecting, right? That function is expecting. Let's say if you are dealing with a member filter, right? You need a scenario ID. Then we have a different function to get the scenario ID, right? And for that scenario ID, let's say that scenario ID function is asking the name of the scenario for which it is extracting the scenario ID. Then again, you have to identify which function is can be used to get the member name object. And then you have to pass it. So like that, we have to understand the main function that we want to call, and to make that function work, what are the dependent object that we have to create to make that function work. Right. So definitely I will focus more to be give you the understanding how can, you know, understand the function and you can reverse engineer by yourself. Right. So I want to give you that capability. Right. So once you get that capability, you will be able to write any function by your own. Right. Okay. So I just want anyway we are above the time, but I want to cover few things here where we left. So we have already talked about what system is, right? It's a namespace, and his system is which is a fundamental class and the base class that define the commonly used values and reference data types. Okay. Now, what is module program here, right? So module program, this lines declares a module name called program, right? Uh, and in VB.NET, module is like a container that holds a group of related methods. So within that module, I can create multiple methods and variables. The variables that I create ever outside of the main class, that will be accessible across all the different functions I'll create within the module. Okay. Now coming to the main function. Main function is nothing. You all know it's an entry point for any program to run, right? And every executable program should have a main method available. Number one. And the method takes what? Here the method is taking as an array of a string as a parameter, right? So whenever we talk about Java or the VB.NET program or C# program, right? And we want to run it outside of any utility. Let's say here we are running all the programs within OneStream, right? But these programs will not run outside of OneStream because they are using packages which are specifically defined for OneStream utility, right? Now, if I'm writing a Java program outside of any utility, whatever the arguments that I will give within the main function called command line argument. And what do you understand by command line argument? Means whenever I'm going to call this function from a command line, it will take the argument after the name of the program, right? Program name space the value whatever I give after the programming that will automatically consider here as a argument for this program and it will automatically go inside the args, right? Correct. In the similar fashion, we will also read about args within OneStream, how that arg is working, how that arg is, getting the data from the place wherever it is being called. Correct. So this is here is called command line, which where the values or the objects are coming at the time when we are calling this function. And in general, not specific to OneStream, not specific to any programming language, these are called as command line arguments. Okay. Going to the next line, console.write line. This is nothing but a write line method. Okay. And console is a class, right? And console is part of which namespace? System namespace. And console is working here only because we have imported system namespace here. And write line is nothing but a function within the console class. And what it will do, it will print whatever we pass an argument, right? Simple. And sub is ending the main subroutine, and here end module is ending the main module. Write line, write line is nothing
Shailen,
but a
what about
method
right line you said?
from the console class. This write line is a method defined inside the console class, right? So we are calling console dot write line, which is defined inside the console class, and console class is defined within the system namespace. Okay.
Okay, and as you said, like sub
Correct.
main args as string, no? So you were saying it is a command line argument or something. So
Uh,
where, I mean, in these braces, the first braces as string
okay.
braces.
So as I
So we are
said,
passing this
whenever we
argument.
will
Is
run
that
this
understanding is
program,
correct or
okay,
like what it exactly?
and as I said, if we think beyond one stream or in any programming language, whenever I'm calling this program outside, sorry, from a console, console means from a black screen that you generally see, right? You will call this function and along with the program name space, then the arguments, right? Example, let's say I'll just write it here. Okay. So let's say program name, then arg1, then arg2. Okay. So when I'm running this program from a console, whatever I will pass after the program name, these will be considered as args for this program. And these two args will automatically go inside my string array. Okay. So here args will automatically read their arguments whenever I am running this function from a console, and args can also be read these two arguments and use it inside the main function. And the same concept will be used for one stream as well. So all those arguments which are there in my main function are using my source wherever. For example, I'll go in more detail in the next class when we will be understanding what are these. We have SI in the main, we have globals inside the main, we have API inside the main, we have ERGS inside the main function, and how they are working. What is the concept? We'll talk about each and every one in very detail. What is global is being used within the financial rule. Global is very useful to do a optimized code in OneStream financial rules. Example, let's say you have a data management job. Within the data management job, right? You are calling another data management job, means the child job, but you're defining a variable here and you want to use this variable across different data management jobs that you will call in the sequence, right? So the variable that you've defined in the global class, BR globals, that will not die unless your execution is stopped, or the unless your session doesn't end. Session of what? The session of the program. So as soon as you trigger, your session starts, and we use this global to make the variable available, right, across the different child jobs that we execute. Okay, and globals can be really useful if we are using, or if we are playing with the custom tables, right? Because we have to understand how the financial rule is being called parallelly from the custom calculate function from the data management job, right? We have to understand that as well. Let's say if I'm running uh, if I'm running a business rule for, let's say, 20 to 25 data units, right? All these data units will run parallelly. It will not run in sequence, it will run parallelly. So when the parallel execution will happen, correct? Uh, we cannot run a query from the table 25 times. That will make our code very slow. So what I'll do is I will use globals. I will just read that table once, I'll put it into globals and use that object across all my data unit instances running parallelly with this my financial rule. Right? So this is also we will understand. I can show you a real-time example how this global can be used with a custom table and can optimize your financial rule performance. Okay. So let's say I'll just cover one more last point here. Let's say within this name space, main class is one of the class that come as a default. Along with the main class, we can create our own classes as well, right? And if we have to use those classes, we have to use the qualified names to access that another class that I'm defining within my rule. So if I'm creating a common class, if I'm creating a um, I've explained about shared business rules, right? If I'm creating class in one of my extender rule and I'm using it all my different rules, I have to use the qualified names to be able to access that class into different rules. And this is one of my shared business rule example. Okay. So this is all for this demo session. And those who wanted to join from the next session, they can ping me over WhatsApp, and from